The slap echoed louder than it should have. Crystal glasses stopped mid-air. Conversations froze halfway between smiles. Even the pianist in the corner missed a note. No one moved. Because no one could understand what they had just seen. The cleaner, the quiet woman who spent most evenings invisible behind polished marble and spotless glass, was standing between the most feared man's wife and the old woman in the wheelchair behind her. Her chest rose and fell too fast. Her right hand trembled at her side. But her voice didn't. Touch her again, and try me. The Mafia boss's wife lay half-collapsed against the edge of the grand piano, one hand pressed against her cheek, her perfect composure cracked in a way no one in this city had ever witnessed before. A red mark bloomed slowly across her pale skin. Security hesitated. Guests exchanged nervous glances. Because no one intervenes in family matters when the family belongs to Alexander Volkov. The doors opened. And the room fell even quieter. He didn't rush. Men like him never rushed. Alexander Volkov stepped inside, removing his gloves slowly, his expression unreadable. He saw his wife on the floor. He saw the cleaner standing in front of the wheelchair. And he saw his mother. Silent. Still. Her fragile wrist trembling slightly in the dim chandelier light. 3 people. 3 stories. 10 seconds to decide which one deserved loyalty. 4 months earlier, the woman now shaking in the center of the room arrived in this city with one suitcase, a temporary visa, and a promise she made long before she ever knew the name Volkov. A promise about what strong hands are meant to do. And tonight those hands had crossed a line that could never be uncrossed. What no one in that room understood was that the slap they just witnessed was not the beginning of the story. It was the end of 4 months of silence. If you're ready for a story about power, dignity, forbidden love, and the sweetest revenge you've ever witnessed, then you're in the right place. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications because this channel brings you the most addictive romance stories you won't find anywhere else. Drop a fire in the comments if you're team revenge. And let's get into this story. 4 months earlier, the first thing Amara Okoye noticed about the Volkov residence was the silence. Not the peaceful kind. Not the comforting quiet of a home at rest. This silence felt curated, engineered, protected. The marble floors reflected the soft glow of hidden ceiling lights. Glass walls overlooked a city that never slept, yet inside the penthouse, time moved differently. Carefully. Slowly. Amara stood at the service entrance holding a single suitcase. Everything she owned fit inside it. 2 uniforms. 1 formal dress. A photograph folded carefully between passport pages. And a memory she carried everywhere she went. Her grandmother's voice. You have strong hands. Use them to hold people up. The head housekeeper, Mrs. Petrova, examined her with the clinical efficiency of someone who had seen hundreds of applicants pass through these doors. Experience? Yes. With elderly care? Yes. In private homes? Amara nodded. She did not mention the small rural clinic where she spent most of her childhood assisting her grandmother. She did not explain how she learned to change bandages before she learned algebra. How she learned patience from watching pain linger in rooms that had no money for relief. Some things were not easy to translate into English. Mrs. Petrova gestured toward the east corridor. You will assist Madame Elena Volkov. Mobility restrictions. Stroke 3 years ago. The corridor stretched long and quiet, lined with art that looked expensive enough to require security of its own. At the end of the hallway, sunlight spilled through tall windows into a room filled with music. A grand piano sat near the glass wall. Beside it, a wheelchair. Elena Volkov did not turn immediately when Amara entered. Her fingers hovered above the piano keys, hesitant, as if remembering something they were once certain about. Then she played. The melody was slow, unsteady, but unmistakably beautiful. You must be the new one, Elena said without looking back. Her voice carried the soft authority of someone accustomed to being heard. Yes, madam. I used to play for diplomats, Elena continued. Now I play for nurses. Amara moved closer slowly. My grandmother used to sing while she worked. Elena's fingers paused above the keys. What did she sing? Old hymns, Amara said. Songs about patience. Elena gave the smallest smile. Patience is a difficult instrument. Their first conversation lasted less than 2 minutes. But something passed quietly between them. Recognition. Within the first week, Amara learned Elena's routines. Morning tea by the window. Afternoon reading sessions. Music when the pain allowed. Silence when it didn't. Elena had once been a renowned concert pianist. Now her hands trembled when she reached for a teacup. Amara never commented on the tremor. She simply adjusted the saucer so the distance felt smaller. Small mercies. Invisible kindness. The kind no one applauds. Alexander Volkov appeared rarely. But when he did, the entire atmosphere shifted. Staff moved differently. Voices lowered. Phones disappeared from sight. He spoke little, observed everything. His presence carried the quiet gravity of someone used to being obeyed. His wife, Victoria, was different. Victoria filled rooms easily. She smiled often. Spoke warmly. Remembered names. She ran a global lifestyle brand admired by millions. Her beauty felt effortless. Her kindness felt practiced. Every morning at 11, she entered Elena's room with fresh flowers. My dear Elena, she would say gently. You look stronger today. She kissed the air beside the old woman's cheek. Never quite touching. Amara noticed details others ignored. Victoria never stayed longer than exactly 15 minutes. Her smile faded the moment she stepped into the hallway. Her voice lost warmth when cameras were absent. One afternoon, Elena attempted a longer piano piece. Her fingers hesitated halfway through the melody. Frustration tightened her expression. Amara quietly stepped forward. May I? Elena nodded. Amara gently supported her wrist. Guided her hand back to the keys. Together, they finished the song. For the first time, Elena laughed. Softly at first. Then fully. The sound surprised them both. Later that evening, as Amara organized sheet music, she sensed someone watching from the hallway. Victoria stood partially hidden beyond the doorway. Her smile remained perfectly composed. But her eyes were cold. Measured. Calculating. And in that moment, Amara understood something important. In this house, kindness was currency. And not everyone spent it honestly. The following morning, the piano lid was closed. Locked. No explanation given. The silence returned. Heavier than before. Something had changed. Amara could feel it. She just didn't know how much yet. Tension rarely announces itself loudly. It begins in small adjustments. Subtle rearrangements of routine. Quiet interruptions that seem insignificant, until they begin forming patterns. The first change was the schedule. Victoria began arriving earlier. Then staying longer. She repositioned Elena's wheelchair away from the window. Claimed the sunlight was too harsh. The curtains remained drawn most afternoons. The piano remained closed. Too tiring, Victoria would explain gently. She needs rest. Elena did not argue. But her fingers often rested on the armrest as though remembering invisible keys. Amara noticed bruising one afternoon while assisting with physical therapy. Faint fingerprints along Elena's forearm. Too precise to be accidental. Elena, did something happen? The older woman's eyes shifted toward the door before answering. I bruise easily now. The explanation sounded rehearsed. Amara did not press further. But she began watching more carefully. One evening, she returned to deliver medication and found Elena sitting in darkness. The room lights were off. Curtains drawn. The wheelchair positioned facing the wall. Elena? A pause. I was told the light was causing headaches. How long have you been here? I am not certain. The digital clock on the bedside table read 6:42 p.m. Her lunch tray remained untouched beside her. Cold. Amara opened the curtains immediately. Golden sunlight flooded the room. Elena blinked as though waking from a long sleep. The piano remained closed. Days later, Amara overheard voices in the hallway. Victoria's tone had changed. No warmth. No performance. Only quiet steel. You must understand your condition is declining. A pause. Elena, your son worries about your confusion. A whisper followed. I am not confused. Of course, Victoria replied smoothly. We will let the doctors decide. The conversation ended the moment footsteps approached. Victoria exited with a gentle smile. You work too hard, Amara, she said kindly. You must remember your position here. Amara nodded respectfully. But something settled heavily in her chest. Control. This was about control. Over the following weeks, small freedoms disappeared. Music sessions shortened. Visitors limited. Medical appointments increased. A new physician began visiting regularly. He spoke primarily with Victoria. Rarely with Elena directly. One afternoon, Amara discovered Elena's reading glasses missing. Without them, Elena could not read sheet music. Could not read novels. Could not even see the city beyond the window clearly. I had them yesterday, Elena murmured. Amara searched the room carefully. Nothing. 2 days passed before she found the glasses hidden inside a locked cabinet drawer in Victoria's private sitting room. When she returned them, Elena held them like something sacred. I was beginning to forget the shape of words, she whispered. The following week, Victoria hosted a charity luncheon. Influential guests filled the penthouse. Photographers captured moments of elegance. Victoria guided Elena gently into the room. Perfect smile. Perfect posture. Elena is feeling much stronger, Victoria announced proudly. Elena's silence felt louder than applause. Later that night, Amara noticed new medication in Elena's tray. Stronger dosage. Different label. Elena, did your doctor explain this change? I do not remember speaking with him. Amara's unease deepened. Then came the first whisper. You should be grateful, Victoria murmured one afternoon, believing no one else could hear. Facilities can be quite lonely. Elena's knuckles whitened against the armrest. I do not want a facility. Then you must cooperate. Amara stood just outside the doorway, unseen. Listening. Learning. Fear began shaping the atmosphere of the room. Invisible. Heavy. Every act of kindness now felt quietly rebellious. Every shared melody felt like resistance. One evening, Elena attempted to play again. Her hands trembled more violently than before. Amara placed her own hand gently over Elena's fingers. Slowly, she whispered. The melody returned. Weak at first. Then stronger. Victoria entered unexpectedly. The music stopped instantly. The piano lid closed again. Later that night, Amara noticed security cameras being adjusted throughout the house. New angles. New placements. Protection, or surveillance. She did not yet know which. But she understood one truth clearly. Someone in this house was preparing for a long game. And Elena was the piece being moved. By the third month, silence had become a language of its own. Every glance carried meaning. Every pause contained warning. Amara learned to recognize the small signals Elena used when she did not feel safe speaking freely. A tap of her thumb against the armrest meant someone might be listening. A prolonged blink meant do not ask questions right now. Victoria's presence grew more constant. Her influence more visible. Legal documents began appearing on desks. Medical evaluations scheduled without Elena's direct consent. The word competency began surfacing in quiet conversations. Alexander Volkov remained distant. Busy. Occupied with matters beyond the penthouse walls. He trusted order within his home. He trusted Victoria. And Victoria understood that trust completely. One afternoon, Elena's longtime physiotherapist stopped visiting. No explanation offered. A replacement arrived 2 days later. Younger. Less experienced. More attentive to Victoria than to Elena. Amara watched carefully as exercises were shortened. Progress minimized. Reports written quickly. Subtle deterioration began appearing in official notes. Elena shows increased cognitive hesitation. Elena demonstrates reduced motor consistency. Elena read the report slowly. Her jaw tightened. I played Rachmaninoff last week. The physiotherapist smiled politely. I'm sure you did. Gaslighting rarely raises its voice. It whispers. It erases confidence piece by piece. Amara considered speaking directly to Alexander. But the risk felt enormous. Workers did not accuse employers lightly. Especially not in houses where loyalty defined survival. One evening, Elena spoke unexpectedly. If I am declared incompetent. Her voice faltered. Control of family assets transfers. Amara listened quietly. To whom? Elena hesitated. My son, officially. A pause. But decisions would not truly be his. The realization settled slowly. Victoria did not need Elena gone. She needed Elena legally silent. Weeks passed. The tension thickened. One afternoon, Amara entered the music room and found Elena staring at sheet music without turning pages. I cannot focus today, Elena admitted. Her hands trembled more noticeably. Amara adjusted the bench. Play one note, she suggested. Only one. Elena pressed a single key. The sound resonated softly through the room. Again, Amara encouraged. One note became two. Then three. Soon the melody returned. Quiet resistance. Tiny victory. But victories attract attention. Victoria began limiting Amara's access to Elena's schedule. Shifts changed without explanation. Time alone reduced. Distance increased. Amara understood the message clearly. Influence was being restricted. Then came the overheard phone call. Documents must be signed before winter. Medical confirmation required. Timing is important. Amara's pulse quickened. Whatever was happening had a deadline. And deadlines create urgency. One evening, Elena's hands shook uncontrollably. Stronger medication again. Stronger dosage again. Elena, this is not right, Amara whispered. I know. Why not refuse? Elena's eyes softened. Because refusal can be interpreted as instability. The trap was tightening. Every reaction could be used as evidence. Every protest reframed as confusion. The following morning, Alexander unexpectedly heard piano music echoing through the corridor. He stopped walking. Listened. The melody was imperfect. But alive. He had not heard his mother play in years. He remained outside the doorway for nearly 2 minutes. Watching silently. His mother's posture straighter than before. Her expression focused. Present. Alive. He said nothing when Amara noticed him. But something in his expression changed. A question had formed. And questions begin unraveling illusions. Victoria noticed the change too. Her patience began thinning. Control was slipping. And control, once threatened, rarely retreats peacefully. Truth rarely arrives suddenly. It accumulates. Quietly. Relentlessly. Piece by piece. Amara began noticing inconsistencies in medical documentation. Dates that did not align. Signatures appearing before consultations occurred. Medication adjustments lacking explanation. Patterns emerging. Victoria's family owned a legal consultancy specializing in estate transitions. Guardianship arrangements. Asset protection. Strategic inheritance structuring. Coincidence felt unlikely. Elena confirmed quietly one evening. My husband structured the trust carefully. Her fingers traced invisible lines on the piano surface. No single person could control everything without legal confirmation of incapacity. And Victoria? Amara asked gently. Victoria understands systems. The weight of that statement lingered heavily. Alexander remained unaware of deeper manipulations. He believed medical professionals. Legal advisors. Documentation. Victoria ensured evidence appeared legitimate. But legitimacy can be manufactured. One afternoon, Elena's medication dosage doubled again. Her speech slowed noticeably. Fatigue deepened. Victoria insisted this confirmed neurological decline. Medical reports reflected increased cognitive instability. Reality was being rewritten in real time. Amara finally requested private audience with Alexander. Carefully, respectfully, she described subtle concerns without accusation. Alexander listened silently. Expression controlled. Victoria entered midway through conversation. Perfect timing. Perfect concern. Amara worries too much. Victoria smiled softly. Adjustment periods are difficult. Alexander nodded slowly. But uncertainty had already begun forming. Later that week, Elena collapsed briefly after medication administration. Doctors attributed episode to progression of condition. Amara was not convinced. Victoria's timeline accelerated. Legal consultations increased. Documentation finalized. Amara discovered draft guardianship forms stored in Victoria's office. And signed. Waiting. Prepared. Control was within reach. Then unexpected evidence surfaced. While reviewing household maintenance logs, Alexander's legal advisor identified irregularities in documentation from 3 years earlier. Weeks before Elena's stroke. An attempted preliminary amendment to trust structure. Submitted by Victoria's family firm. Withdrawn shortly after Elena's medical emergency. Timing felt uncomfortable. Coincidences began aligning too perfectly. Alexander ordered deeper review. Quietly. Privately. Amara noticed additional cameras installed throughout residence corridors. Security expansion. Surveillance increase. Truth was approaching surface. Victoria sensed shift in atmosphere. Pressure intensified. Her visits grew shorter. Sharper. More direct. One afternoon, Elena spoke unexpectedly. I will tell him everything. Victoria's expression hardened. You will tell him exactly what we discussed. Threat hung silently between them. Elena's hands trembled violently that evening. Medication dosage increased again. Amara realized time was running out. Truth needed exposure before legal silence became permanent. The stage was set. The confrontation was inevitable. The charity gala drew the city's most powerful figures. Crystal chandeliers illuminated carefully curated elegance. Victoria moved gracefully through the room. Perfect host. Perfect image. Elena sat beside the grand piano. Silent. Observing. Amara stood nearby. Watchful. Alert. Victoria leaned closer to Elena for photographs. Her manicured fingers tightened around Elena's wrist. Too tight. Elena winced. The cameras flashed. Victoria smiled brighter. Her nails pressed deeper into fragile skin. Amara saw the movement clearly. Saw the subtle flinch. Saw the silent plea in Elena's eyes. Something ancient awakened inside her. Not anger. Instinct. Protection. She stepped forward. Her voice quiet but firm. Please release her wrist. Victoria maintained her smile. I am helping her pose. Pressure increased deliberately. Elena whispered barely audibly. It hurts. The room continued applauding politely. No one noticed. Except Amara. Her hand moved before permission could interfere. The sound cut through the orchestra music. Sharp. Final. Victoria staggered backward in shock. Guests froze. Silence expanded rapidly. Touch her again. Amara's voice trembled. And try me. Alexander entered moments later. Eyes scanning scene. Wife stunned. Cleaner shaking. Mother silent. Decision approaching. Then Elena spoke. Clear. Steady. She has been hurting me for months. Truth shattered illusion. Publicly. Irreversibly. Security footage revealed patterns impossible to deny. Medical manipulation. Legal coercion. Psychological pressure. Evidence accumulated rapidly. Investigations began quietly but efficiently. Victoria's influence dissolved as facts surfaced. Charges against Amara disappeared. Alexander approached her privately days later. "You protected my mother," Amara answered simply. "She deserved protection." Elena returned to daily piano sessions. Strength gradually returning. Laughter becoming familiar again. Alexander began spending evenings listening quietly from the doorway. Healing rarely announces itself loudly. It arrives gently. Consistently. One note at a time. Trust rebuilt slowly. But rebuilt honestly. Peace returned to the penthouse. Not because power changed hands, but because dignity was restored. Some people protect appearances. Others protect truth. Courage rarely looks dramatic in the moment. Sometimes it looks like standing up when silence feels safer. Sometimes it sounds like a single sentence spoken at the right time. Power does not always come from wealth, or influence, or control. Sometimes power comes from refusing to ignore suffering, from choosing compassion when indifference feels easier. Because dignity should never require permission, and silence should never be the price of survival. Stay aware. Stay compassionate. Stay dangerous in the defense of what is right.